G'day, Professor Joseph Drew. Implicit liabilities. They're the biggest threat facing this nation. In this video, I'll explain what they are and how we can get a handle on it. Implicit liabilities are things we're going to have to spend money on in the future because we didn't do something we should have done. In an economic sense, it's very, very similar to explicit debt, a debt at the bank. But it's actually way worse. Now, it is for this simple reason. You take out a loan from a bank, you pay back the money ultimately, plus interest. Interest 5, 6, maybe even 10% if you're unfortunate. Implicit liabilities is a very different kettle of fish. If you don't do, for instance, road maintenance when you should, instead of spending $8 per square metre to do what you should have done, if you leave it long enough and it gets like this, you get to dig it all up and completely rebuild the road at $60 per square metre. You know, almost a 900%, 800% increase. You're not going to pay that on a bank loan. That is why implicit debt should be keeping us all awake at night and giving us much cause for concern. What's even more concerning is that people aren't recognizing this. We're not measuring it properly, and we don't really, to tell you the truth, we have no idea how big this problem is. But if you drive around rural Australia, you'll pretty quickly see. And the risks are ginormous, much bigger than the risks of explicit debt, which we do measure, we do spend a lot of time talking about. There's obviously an intergenerational risk. If we don't do what we know we should do, and the next generation get to pay 800% more because we didn't do what we should have done, obviously that's not intergenerational equity at all. This is the interesting thing about public finance. It's one of the rare occasions where you can force someone else to take a debt without their consent, and we do that when we rack up implicit debt. But it also poses a huge threat to our national economy, because if our rural roads in particular are not traversable, that's where most, or certainly a good deal of our economic wealth in this country comes from farming soft commodities, from mining. This is where a lot of our wealth comes from. And if they can't get it to the ports, we don't get the wealth. So this is a huge national risk. And this is why I've long advocated that our grants commissions need to start following what the grants legislation actually says, particularly about road grants. They need to stop pretending that a Suzuki Swift does the same damage to the road as a great big grain truck, because it doesn't. They need to stop pretending that communities are choosing to have dirt roads because that's their preference, because it isn't. We just need to start doing things correctly. And we need to get a handle on it. Now, it's not practical to go and inspect all our roads. Now, in a lot of states, we do record the amount of money we need to spend on our assets to bring them up to the satisfactory standard. But as everyone in the local government world, and anyone that's ever compared these figures to actual things, realizes that data is extremely misleading. The auditors in New South Wales specifically do not audit that data. We need to get a handle on how big this problem is. Now, obviously, we can't go and inspect all the roads. That's been tried before. It was never completed for a very good reason. There's a lot of roads in Australia. What we need to be doing every year, internal auditors, maybe even external auditors, but certainly council, you need to be selecting a sub-sample of your roads in a random fashion and going and inspecting them, and then after you've inspected it, comparing it to what you've got on your accounting records and making adjustments for the whole road network or whatever physical asset it is based on what our subsamples are telling us. Now, it must be a random sample, and you must go out and assess it without first looking at your records, because if you do, you'll be led into thinking a number because a number's already in your head. How do you do a random sample? It's not that hard. You've got asset registers, number all your roads, then you can go on Excel or calculator or just about anything to get a random number, match up the random number with the numbered road, go out and see them. Now, I'm not talking about a massive exercise, a day or two every year to subsample some of your roads so we can get a handle on what's actually happening. Now, it should be an ARIC-driven function, should be part of the internal auditing. It could be part of the external auditing, although there's lots of problems with our external auditing in many states, so that may or may not be practical. But certainly we need to know what this implicit liability quantum is, and we need to have some good reason for thinking that the figures that we have written down might reflect reality. Look, I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, send it round. You can use it on your public websites, whatever, as long as you don't misrepresent anything. I'm here to help. That's what this is all about. If you found it helpful, give it the thumbs up, send it round. Help me to help others. That's what we're here for. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.